This video is made for adult collectors, and this intro is, while glorious, a little long, so if you want to skip it, go to this timestamp. Enjoy. So it's been 15 years since that movie, the one that changed the way people make these types of movies. It shaped cinema in many ways. It was a huge success. All the CGI holds up to this day, a lot better than some of the shit we get from the most recent offerings, MCU. Hasbro released a 5-pack to commemorate the Autobots from the film, Jazz, Ratchet, Ironhide, and Bumblebee. So how are these reissues? Are they good? Are they bad? How's the QC? I mean, that last part's a bit I'm gonna start with my least favorite and work my way up, because Bumblebee sucks. Bumblebee was so damn loose in a lot of areas or stiff in others. It's all fixable, and this mold has been used so much that I assume it's just mold degradation. The waist was so tight when I got it, then I realized it just wasn't on all the way, so I took it off and put it back on. Easy fix. He has hardly any color on it, and it looks really plain, especially in the chest, and the color matching is awful. I'm still not a fan of the light gray, and the cannon is an unpainted like white gray, so it looks really ugly. He also has the Chad head. I'm just not a fan of this figure. But now on to the looseness. The hips, so damn loose. The knees, so damn loose. The feet, love to untap, and guess what? They are so damn loose. It's a nightmare to get it into any sort of nice pose. I'm not a fan. Ratchet, I really wanted to be better than my last experience with this mold, and I can very much say that it is not. It still sucks. I had to trim the same tabs I had to on the other one, and the loose joints are still present, leading me to believe that this is the same mold as the original one and not the one they used for Dark of the Moon / Premium Finish, where they fixed the tolerances. The hips are still loose, so loose that he tends to do the splits on smooth surfaces. But at least on this one, the roof rack isn't warped, but it's still stupidly hanging off the back. His saw blade is painted in a nice lush silver, and it's double layered. I do quite appreciate that. If you notice, he's missing some paint in some areas, but painted in other areas that weren't on the original. So to make these look different from the originals, but not have to spend more money on them, they just moved the decos around on the toy. It means we don't have to pay more for them, which is nice, but it does leave some areas looking a bit more plain. Especially the lights on his shoulders. They're not painted on this version, but his face is painted versus the old one where they were painted, but his face wasn't. It's, you know, give or take. Ironhide is probably the figure people wanted the most out of this because he has some stupid ass eBay prices, like, bruh. So this is the best way to get this mold currently, and this is where my issues with the packaging come in. So these guys come packed in a box with a backdrop and a piece of cardboard, and they're attached to that, and it presses them very close to the front of the box, Well, Ironhide is large and wide, so he can actually touch the front of the box. So Pulse ships these things out in its mailer box, in another full box full of padding and paper, so there shouldn't be that much in like the terms of issues. But I know Amazon sometimes will just ship the mailer box and nothing else, so the figures will get jostled and Ironhide's painted toes and front lights will hit the box and chip, which has happened to mine. The lights have chipped. Even though it was Pulse that sent it, it still got jostled around because of FedEx, so that's a shame, because it's right in front and it's just I've actually heard a story of someone's Ironhide's toes stabbing through the box because of how close he is to the inside. The mold itself, though, is just meh. It's way too big. Ironhide wasn't that tall compared to Prime. His articulation also sucks, and I'll get to that in a bit. The feet are sculpted at an angle, but the wheels, again, I'll talk about that too in a bit, but it's just not fun. Like, it looks really cool. Probably the best looking Ironhide that we've gotten in mainline, but if you want something to scale with Prime, the Hunt for the Decepticons Deluxe is a lot better in that regard. I do love how the new gray parts look on this guy. It makes him feel a lot less plain compared to the original. However, they didn't paint the second eye. It is badly damaged in the film, but it's still there. And here they just didn't paint it. I don't know why, but easy fix, I guess. I'm actually going to talk you through the articulation on this guy because I don't know, it just baffles me. The biggest letdown for me on this mold is probably its posability. It's not great. Having come out after Studio Series 05, which is pretty much the same thing as this, you have like great knees, ankle joints, excellent arm clearance and articulation, awesome head movement. This doesn't have any of that. Like, the head's very limited because of where it is. It's on a ball joint, but that's all it does. The arms are on these weird shoulders, both of which are incredibly loose on my copy. And they rotate at that hinge inside and at the hinge at the front, so it can be really awkward. It's like trying to move the Deluxe's shoulders. You have a bicep swivel, but like it's very hard to. There we go. There, it's activating, and the cannons do get in the way of that because of how the arm is sculpted there. You have an elbow bend and a wrist rotation, which I wasn't expecting the wrist rotation, so that's nice. Nothing at the waist. And it's not like they couldn't have figured out a way to do it. If they shifted this hinge up and then split the waist, they could have probably done it. Hips go forward and back, in and out, no problems there. Thigh swivel, no problems there. 90 degrees of bend at the knee, no problems there. My biggest issue, though, is the feet. So they're sculpted at an angle, but the tires are flat. So when you put him down, he let me line up his feet first. He sort of wobbles, and it's not very nice. And then when you try to get him into like any sort of pose, they look weird. They don't look right. He desperately needed a tilt, even a small one. Just like you could have just shot a pin right through there and then had a tilt, but they didn't do that, and it's a bit annoying. I'm not the biggest fan of how this guy poses. Like, you see that he's constantly got to be bent knee or leaning back. So if I stand him up straight, he'll just wobble constantly. Jazz is nice. A lot nicer than I remember. I love the silver. They blended the paint with the silver plastic so well that it just works. The color separation doesn't feel as sporadic as the last few figures, and all the joints are just rock solid. Still not a fan of how the spoiler isn't on the back properly the way it is in the film, but this follows the Human Alliance transformation scheme, so it has a lot of the tropes from that toy. The asymmetrical hands are a little bit weird. I get why it's like that, but I've just never been a fan of it. He also is small, like quite small, but that works more in his favor. He's a small Autobot. The weapon is also the coolest one out of the bunch for me. I've always been a big fan of the shield gun thing he has. Now, this was the one I was looking forward to the most. I've never handled this version of the mold before, and I did buy Jetfire for this. Having just gotten Studio Series number 5 again through Premium Finish, getting 32 has definitely shown me how they improved this mold. This looks a lot better. Now, a lot of people were questioning why they didn't Premium Finish this mold, and that's probably because they wanted the box set to sell to people who wanted this Prime, and they wanted Premium Finish to sell separately so they'd have two different molds on the market, and then they reissued Dark of the Moon as well for early next year, so we're going to have 3 of them on the market at relatively the same time, which is nice to see. I got them all, by the way. This version cleans up a lot nicer than 05 and looks more proportional because of that new chest. The back does stick out a bit more than I would like, but it's not horrible. It definitely cleans up a lot nicer than Premium Finish's just slab. He is lacking, though, in some paint, especially in the legs. They look very plain. The Toy Hack set would really help fix that, but it's out of stock. God damn it. His swords are a different color to the Premium Finish one. They look a lot cheaper. I mean, it's frosted blades, but to me they look off. One of my friends actually compared them to smoked salmon, and I can kind of see that. He can also combine with Jetfire, but I'll save that for a Studio Series Jetfire video. If you guys want to see that, let me know. I am happy we got all 5 of these molds again here, but Bumblebee and Ratchet still suffer, and Ironhide's just... he's not horrible, but he's not amazing. Now on to the alt modes. Transforming Bumblebee sucks. He still has too much engineering for the size, and I never enjoy this. Couple that with the weird ass tabs for the doors and the loose feet on my copy, it just makes transforming it not fun. Ratchet is just Dark of the Moon, but cleaner, and it's a nice transformation. Never really had any issue with this one, so I like it a lot, but I did have to clip the feet tabs as they were stopping the side panels from actually tabbing in, just like my last version. Ironhide has an interesting transformation. Again, following the MPM but dumbed down to mainline budget trend. It's not inherently hard, but it doesn't really strike that balance between complex and simple. Because the chest, like almost every other Ironhide toy, is really annoying, but the rest of the figure is completely fine. Jazz's transformation is just the Human Alliance, but dumbed down. It feels solid though, and everything has a clear place to go. I like it. He's the most fun to transform. Prime's, though, is not the best. They took an already flawed transformation and made it more complex, and while it's not impossible to do, it's very annoying. The grill, I did break a tab off. That is my fault, though. I picked this up blindly thinking it was 05 and not 32 because they were both sitting in truck mode at my desk, and they have slightly different grill transformations, and I pulled on the wrong bit and I broke a tab off of 05. That is 100% my fault, but I would advise wiggling the grill separate as opposed to just yanking on it because you'll snap the peg off. I do genuinely find Prime's conversion frustrating. It's not horrible, but for the size of the toy, it feels too small for this new engineering, and I'm probably going to leave it in combined mode with Jetfire on my shelf. That's just how it's going to stay. The alt modes, though, are great, minus Ironhide. He's way too damn big. His truck is huge in real life. The top kick is massive, but it's not bigger than a semi, and it's about the size of Ratchet's Hummer in Dark of the Moon. But here it is, much larger than it needs to be. Like, I'm not a scale nut, but that does bother me. Everything else, though, is nice. B still looks plain, but the car from the first movie, to me, has always been kind of boring for Camaros, so that doesn't help its case. Also, the color matching is just horrendously bad. All the silver on Jazz looks incredibly nice. The whole thing is covered, and there's no hinges sticking out. It's just... all the panel lines just sort of flow. It's a fantastic alt mode. Ratchet is way too small in my opinion, but actual coloring, it's nice. It's a different type of green than the original one. And hey, the roof rack isn't busted on this one, so I have a complete Ratchet. I genuinely like Ratchet's alt mode. I think it's nice. Ironhide is just a plain old truck, but I do like how they were able to capture the top kick's unique shaping and bodywork in this toy. It's a very unique pickup truck, and they just did it so well here. I like it a lot. Prime is nice, ignoring the split grill because I'm stupid, but the side of the truck is really kibbly. There feels like there should be a panel to cover that shit, but it's just, it isn't there, and it's annoying. I don't know, it feels like it's not finished, and he doesn't roll because the hinges and stuff get in the way of the ground clearance. I've also never been a fan of the evasion mode style feet on the back of the truck bed, but it's not that bad here, to be honest. They all look great together though, ignoring scale. I think it turned out real nice, but that's not all. You also get a backdrop equipped with extending base and rotatable like back section to give you Sam's house or the Arrival to Earth alleyway. I love that. I don't keep the backdrops, but I am keeping this one. I think this is an excellent idea, and I'd love to see them do more swappable ones in the future, especially on like leader class toys. I would love that. The set is neat. Like, it's nice that you're now able to get 2 extremely rare Studio Series molds and some others you might have missed out on. It's just the QC and consistencies of this thing make it feel rushed, and I'm pretty sure it is. It came out a couple months after it was announced and before it was supposed to release in December. And I think that might have something to do with the hastiness feeling of it. Like, the quality control feels like it was skipped out on because they had to get this thing out at a certain time. Kind of wish they had left it for December to give it more time to cook in the QC department, but I mean, I don't know how their supply chain works specifically, so who knows? But it's a great way to get both Prime and Ironhide, so I definitely recommend it. Prime basically pays for the box set, and Ironhide almost pays for 2. Like, it's totally worth it in that regards. But that's my look at the Studio Series 15th anniversary box set. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.